of White Supremacy, Gus T Renegade and Justice in for another program to share constructive information on racism, white supremacy, what it is, and how it works. Thank you, everybody, for tuning into the broadcast. The line for the show was full before the show started. Thank you, everybody, for calling in and supporting. If a line opens up, I will let you know. But the lines were full before the show started. I actually had to make sure that I had room to get the guest on and Justice on. Actually, since that's coming up consistently, I did check to upgrade and make the show a premium broadcast at Blog Talk Radio. It's $400 for 1 year. So since this is listener supported, let's see if we can get that. That way we won't have this problem anymore. It would open up 25 lines for people to call in. So there you go. $400. You don't even have to give that to me. That would go directly to the white people at Blog Talk Radio. I want to get started on today's broadcast. Before I do, I want to make sure that I give recognition and appreciation for ebonynewschannel.blogspot.com. Again, ebonynewschannel.blogspot.com. She is generally referenced as caller 818 on the program. She's also an investor in the cows, and she recommended our guest for today's program. Thank you very much. Continued support. I hope it is worthy of your time and energy. Today's broadcast, real pleasure. Our guest, as he says on his website, he wears many hats. He is the author of Analitkul Cogitationz. Very interesting book. Touches very much in line with a lot of the things that he talks about on his website. In addition to being an author, he is a graphic and web developer, a filmmaker, the creator and CEO of the Ghetto Times magazine and the GhettoTimes.com. It's linked in the description for this program. If you are listening via Blog Talk Radio, all you have to do is click his name. It will take you to his website. He has a plethora of fantastic essays. He has video articles for people who are not too interested in reading. You can watch the videos, chock full of great information, and he uses the term white supremacy. Love it, love it, love it. He has self-declared to be the future of black media. Real privilege to have him on the program. I am a victim of racism, white supremacy. I attempted to get the correct pronunciation of his name, but I couldn't find anyone saying his name before the program, so I'm not going to embarrass myself by botching it. I'm just going to say the last name because I think I can get that right, and then I will ask him to say it so I can pronounce it correctly. Mr. Ishangi, couldn't even get that right. Mr. Ishangi, are you with us, sir?
Yes, I'm here.
Outstanding. Can you please pronounce your name for me correctly?
Yes, it's Mbwebe. It's Mbwebe.
Mbwebe.
Yeah, there you go.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
And can you pronounce your full name, sir?
It's Mbwebe Aja Ishangi.
Mbwebe Aja Ishangi.
Yes.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for taking some of your Wednesday afternoon to share time with us. I really respect the work that you do on your website, and I'm really honored to have a chance to share your work with my audience.
Brother, listen, I mean, humble reciprocity back to you, brother. I mean, I am definitely thankful for the opportunity to, have just a few moments to share some of the information that I try so aggressively to get out to our people. So I appreciate it as well.
For sure. For folks who have not been to the GhettoTimes.com, and again, it's linked right in the description. You can just click his name, take you right to the webpage. For folks who have not visited or haven't picked up a copy of Analitkul Cogitationz, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself, sir?
Sure. I will definitely say that Analitkul Cogitationz gives a good description of who I am regarding the moments when I was reawakened into Pan-African consciousness. This dates back to my college days. And in doing so, it was a brother by the name of Karis, one I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with, who came to my university. He did a lecture, and this lecture was called Revolution of the Mind. And that evening he pretty much shattered everything that I thought that I knew or thought that I believed. And from that point on, I went on this journey, both a physical, mental, and more importantly, a spiritual journey that took me through different corridors of finding out, who I am, what's my purpose, and how can I be an asset to the legacy of our people. In doing so, in writing this book, it took me a while to write it because I was afraid to talk about some of the encounters, more importantly, the spiritual encounters that I endured, mainly because I thought that people would see me as, hey, this cat needs to be put in a jacket and put in a padded room. You know what I mean? Because there's not too many outlets that we have where people can talk about the paranormal or the physical versus non-physical or even just metaphysics. And in doing so, I was dealing with these things, not even realizing or knowing what I was talking about. You know what I mean? It's kind of like I just tapped into something that I must have known from what I call our ADB, our ancestral data banks, that was reawakened inside of me, and all these questions started coming. And with this quest of questions that I've been on for the past 17 or so odd years, it's enabled me to, more importantly, further define my purpose for being here, and more importantly also reach other people to let them know that, hey, the stuff that you may be enduring in your mind, you're not the only one going through it. Because at one point in time I thought that what I was experiencing was authentic. That was another reason why I kept it to myself, because I figured, if I share this with someone, they're going to think that, hey, I've never heard of that, so I don't even want to have that kind of discussion. It's blasphemy if it's not religious-based. So, the book in itself is a two-part book. The first part is called Deja Vu, and Deja Vu goes through that evening once I left Karis-One's lecture, and basically the spiritual encounters that I endured over the next several years, to the point where there were situations where my life was almost taken several times, not physically, which some people might think, what does he mean by that? I could elaborate if need be, but it's definitely in full detail in the book, and we also have an audio book version, which allows people to hear what actually went down. And then the rest of the book deals with articles and essays that I've written since the Ghetto Times inception, up until I think 2007. You still there? Peace. Hello? 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 Wow, did I lose you? Peace. Hello?
Yes, sir. Can I be heard?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Got disconnected. I am all good, though. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for your patience. Before I hop into more of the information on the website and the book, I wanted to check for folks who have not seen you. You are a black male. Is that accurate?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's make it clear. Yeah.
Very important.
Exactly.
This podcast, the COWS, Context of White Supremacy, I have unfortunately concluded that we are in a global system of racism, white supremacy. I use those two terms interchangeably, and I use the same definition for both terms, racism and white supremacy. That definition is as follows. A global system of people who classify themselves as white and are dedicated to abusing and or subjugating everyone in the known universe whom they classify as not white. Do you believe that such a system exists, and do you think that definition is accurate?
Definitely do. And I'm actually looking for this quote that I also like to use. Dr. Neely Fuller wrote, and I'm sure you're familiar with him, and also Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. And he just talks about the book that he wrote dealing with the compensatory code. Compensatory code deals with the 9 areas of people activity that global white supremacy functions on. And basically, let me just paraphrase what he was saying, is that the idea of there's three basic types of people in the known universe, that being white people, non-whites, and white supremacist races. In its explanation, white people are people who classify themselves as white and have been classified as white, accepted as white, and who generally function as white in all of the 9 major areas of activity. He defined non-whites as people who have been classified as non-white and or generally function as non-white in their relationships with each other. And last, white supremacists or races are people who classify themselves as white and who generally function as white and who function racial subjugation based on white, non-white, whites and non-whites at any time, in any place, in any one or more of the 9 areas of activity. And these 9 areas are economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, sex, religion, and war. And a 10th one has been added, which is health. And when you look at these 10 areas of people activity, we see that there are entities, there are corporations, there are parties that pretty much dominate and control these 10 areas. The educational system is ran by white folk. The entertainment industry is ran by white folk. You know, the law. The judicial system is ran by white folk. Politics, on down to, you know, war, sex, all of these things that I mentioned before. And Amos Wilson wrote about these areas also in the blueprint to Black Power, and realizing that this is the blueprint that is used to maintain global white supremacy. Therefore, I try to put a lot of energy into studying these areas and realizing, you know, just as they use it, that's something that we should gravitate towards. And that's why I'm so much about self-reliance, so much about Sankofa, going back and learning about our history, not just to know it, but to do something with it so that we can manifest something on the physical plane for our generations that ensue us. You still, did I lose you again? Hello? Wow. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. I don't know if I should just continue to talk or what. Hopefully you're going to pick up in a minute. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Okay, this isn't good.
Folks that are on my Skype line, you're out of luck today because the second time that my Skype has crashed, and I'm not going to keep reloading it and going through all these issues. So everybody that's on Skype, my apologies. You'll have to listen online because I keep getting crashed and missing out, and I'm just not going to compromise the quality of the program. For folks who have not listened to the cows before, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she'll be on the program this Sunday, September 6th. She'll be making her 6th visit to the program, and Neely Fuller Jr. has been here 8 times, so we should be very familiar with those folks and what they talk about in their work. I believe my co-host, Justice, she is a non-white female. She is all of 11. She was checking out your website earlier today, and she's very interested in learning more about racism, white supremacy. She should be here. Her line is open. If you have some questions you would like to ask Mr. Ishangi, please go right ahead.
Hello,
Greetings.
Mr. Isangi. How did you get your name?
Good question. Well, first of all, it wasn't my born name. I'll just take a little short story here. When I was coming into myself as far as learning about my legacy, our legacy, and things of that nature, for one, my born name doesn't have, and this is something that's always been with me, is that the names that we've been given, they have no historical fact or no historical presence regarding to the essence of our people. I choose not to say what the name is, but just to keep to myself. But the bottom line is that the the name is British, and I'm not even British. And second of all, when I was coming into learning about myself and everything, it was one evening in 2003. I had woke up from a sleep, and this name just came to my head. It was Mbwebe. I woke up saying Mbwebe, and I didn't think much about it. I thought, well, it's just a word. I just jotted it into my mental Rolodex and just kept it moving. Not even thinking about I was going to change my name, so I wasn't on that level yet. But several years later, that was in 2001. Around 2003, I was reading a book by KRS-One called Ruminations, which is a very good book, very good read. And his name is broken down into an acronym. It means knowledge reigns supreme over nearly everyone. And when I read that in his book, even though I knew that, but when I read it in his book, as soon as I read those words, my name came to me, Mbwebe, and it came as an acronym. And Mbwebe stands for mind and body working equally exudes blessings eternal. So what that means is I've been all along my life, I've always been trying to work on making my mind and my body, along with my spirit, work together. And if I can accomplish that, then the blessings will continue to come. So Mbwebe means mind and body working equally, exudes blessings eternal. So it's really about, redefining yourself. And when you start to learn about yourself, I've also found out that Mbwebe also has African roots. The words have been, there's a spelling. It's a different kind of spelling and a pronunciation, but it's also in Ghana. So it's interesting how we're connected, not even realizing that we're connected, that this name comes to me in my dream, and then years later it hits me and a definition comes and it applies to the basic life that I've been trying to live my life all my life. So it's a daily affirmation. It's a daily challenge that I have to make sure that my mind and my body and my spirituality are working equally. And if I can do that, then I think the blessings will continue to come. And so far they've been pretty much right on the money.
Wow. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. And don't be afraid to redefine yourself. That's the other thing too. You know what I mean? Just because you're born with a certain name or born with a certain philosophy or, born in a certain religion doesn't mean that that's what you have to maintain the rest of your life. We have our own minds. And a lot of us are taught that, the only kind of education you need to get is when you go to school, and once you finish high school or college, there's no more learning. No, you learn all your life. It's a choice. You know what I mean? So don't let other people tell you that you shouldn't ask questions or you shouldn't challenge this or you shouldn't change that. If you feel it suits yourself in your global quest to find out who you are, then feel free to do that, because you'll find a lot of doors will be open for you. There's a lot of people trekking the same path.
Wow. If you don't mind, what was your name? Like not like the name that you just shared.
I usually don't tell people, but it doesn't matter. My born name was Javon Buckner. That's my born name. And Javon is French for Jeff, and Buckner is a British name. And, again, when I looked at my family tree and trying to understand, the relevance of my name, just as with, when we look at the Mangamizo or the Middle Passage, the first thing that they gave to us when we landed on these shores, the first thing they took away was our drum, and then they started renaming us, and they named us after our slave masters. So that's where you get Richard's son, or Richardson, or Jack's son, or Jackson, or things of that nature. But in addition to that, it was vital. It was key for them to erase the names, because it will be hard for us to trace lineage of where we come from. And it isn't just in names, but it's also been done in artifacts. It's been done in history. It's been done in, plagiarism. So when we talk about global white supremacy, we're talking about a very, I would say, a masterpiece as far as, for them. I mean, they've been able to use this thing, and they have us discombobulated for thousands of years, to the point where we don't know what to call ourselves. You know what I mean? So I think that the most important key thing here is when you're dealing with global white supremacy, as Steve Coakley always told me, is, there's no such thing as a coincidence. You have to look at things that they were done for a reason. When you look at names of things, when you look at logos of things, when you look at the reason why the history of something is created, there are people that sat there and devise the plan on why they chose these things. So don't sleep on coincidences. You know what I mean? So, white supremacy is definitely something that, we should not take lightly. And I hope that, with this conversation this evening that we'll be able to tap more into it.
Yeah. How did you learn about racism and white supremacy?
I'm sorry, say it again, repeat that.
How did you learn about racism and white supremacy?
Well, I think we've all learned about it in our own way. If it's not from being called the N-word, if it's not, being passed over and, someone not serving you, in some form or way we've all been exposed to it. The problem is that we've just accepted it. We figured, okay, well, this is America, this is the way it is, and we've accepted the small milestones of quote-unquote progress and thinking that, okay, we're making progress and eventually white folk is going to, accept us. That's something that African people throughout the diaspora still suffer from, as that we long to be accepted by our enemy. And when I say enemy, it's not that I'm saying go out and kill and shoot white folk. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to get nobody locked up. But what I am saying is that when we look at the world that we live in, if you can just take a walk down the street, or you can turn on your TV, or you can look in a magazine, you can see who they're promoting. You can see the magazines, they're promoting white beauty. Television, you can count how many white folks are to people of color. And of those people of color, you can see what roles they play. So for someone to think that racism doesn't exist, it's kind of like they've really suffered from menticide. And menticide is what's called mental suicide, which was coined by Bobby Wright. And it's basically when you have you really can't grasp the notion that racism or that white folk don't like you. And yet you try so much and try so hard to get them to accept you. And that's the problem, because as easy as it is for us to fight, or as hard as it is, as much energy as we put out on trying to get white folk to accept us, we in turn don't give the same love to our own people. We suffer from hating ourselves and wanting to be white. And that's the issue. We can argue about it and say, well, no, I don't really want to be white. But when you look at the origin of things, you look at the origin of our organizations, you look at NAACP, you look at the Urban League, you look at black fraternities and sororities, you look at churches, you look at all these systematic organizations that are in place for black people, yet none of them are African-centered, especially in America. There's a problem there. And this is not a coincidence. It is a systematic scheme that has been going on ever since we've been allegedly freed in 1863. So I can get into that, but I just want to make sure that, I'm covering what you want me to talk about, because I can run my mouth and I don't want to get off a tangent. So, just shoot whatever you want me to talk about and I can get into it.
Okay. Do you write anything for children? If so, what do you write for children, and how is it constructive?
I personally, that's been something I've been grappling with. I really do want to write for children. I currently have not written material that is, I would think, conducive for children to read. The only reason why I say that is because I think about the reaction. I think about how I was when I was 20 and learning about history and learning about the lies that, we face, to realize that we've been lied about a lot of things, from the food that we eat. We're thinking that, the Food and Drug Administration really cares about our diet. They don't. To learn that the hospital administration is more about a business than it is about making people well, that, makes me, that makes you upset. So I'm thinking about a child who's in school learning about these things and how rebellious they may be, to the point where they may drop out of school or get in, any kind of other trouble, quote unquote. So the problem is, I wish, there are charter schools, but I think the biggest problem is that we don't have our own system put in place to protect children such as yourself when you come into this knowledge. And that's where I think that we're falling short as far as those people that are involved with consciousness, is that we have yet to manifest something physically to support the knowledge base that we're seeking. So, it is my aspiration to write for children. More importantly, it is my aspiration to be involved in the creation of some sort of school or some sort of homeschooling or some sort of system that will support the continued education that you can learn from this stuff. Because I will say that you do need two forms of education. You need the Western education just to be able to get, to earn money. To be able to earn money, you have to have at least a high school diploma, unfortunately. And I say that because there are no Black Wall Streets. We don't have enough businesses to take care of ourselves. And until that, we're still a part of this society. So therefore, we have to make sure we're able to, prosper in it as best as we can. In addition to that, schools are very important, but I think that the most important thing that we need to focus on is getting our knowledge base back, learning about who we are, learning about our place in history, so that even when we're in school, we can challenge some of those teachers that tell us certain things. So when February 1st comes around and we start learning about Black History Month, that it isn't just the same old folk. It isn't just ML King and Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. That we're taught about other people that are kings and queens of antiquity. So I think that that's the key thing, and that's something that I'm pushing towards. I do speak to kids, but I got to water it down because the last thing I want is, for a 6-year-old to be blaspheming a Black Greek or something like that.
Thank you for the constructive information. Go ahead, Gus.
Context of white supremacy, justice, Gus T Renegade, and our guest for today's program, Mbwewe, Asia, Mbwewe. Did I say it correctly? Mbwewe.
Mbwewe, Aja, Ishangi. It'll come to you, brother. It take your time with it. You know what I mean? Take your time with it. It's Mbwewe, Aja, Ishangi.
Mbwewe, Aja, Ishangi.
There you go.
Got it. I am a victim. Please be patient with me, audience, and thank you for your patience.
It's all right.
I wanted to talk about this was not the first essay that I read from the site. I'm going to save that one for later, but I wanted to talk about the essay. It's a part of the image that's pictured with the description for the broadcast, where you talk about a declaration. I am the future of Black media. Real important piece, and I think that really gets to the core of what your purpose is with the Ghetto Times. Can you talk about that piece a little bit?
Yeah, that's. I actually wrote this piece out of desire, or actually out of a plea to other people to realize that Black media is dying, and it actually is on a respirator. And when I say that, I mean, when we think about the so-called Black magazines or Black publications that we have, first you think about Essence and Jet and Ebony and things of that nature. Even though, I think Jet is still owned by Earl Graves, but when you look at who really owns these magazines, just look at their advertisement. You flip through the first 10 pages, you'll see there's nothing but white corporations, and even now they're introducing white models and, McDonald's and things of that nature. The information that is being put out by these historical publications is doing us no service, is making us assimilate and continuing to chase this dream of wanting to be integrated into this global society, which, basically prefers white folk. And when I say that, it's not to say that I hate everything white, but there's just not a lot of Black stuff. You know what I mean? That's the issue. There's no balance. And so I wrote this piece because I realized that, if this generation here that I'm a part of, especially with the internet boom and, we have all these bloggers and things of that nature, if we're looking at now that the historians that were before us, that wrote the books, they're passing on. We're reading less and less with each generation. And on top of that, we're getting caught up more and more on television with reality TV. It seems like that's more what people are into than sports. And it used to be sports. Now people are, watching whatever, Kardashians and housewives of whatever city. The point is that we are being dumbed down, and we are not learning anything about our legacy and therefore not knowing our place in society. We are continually being 99% consumer, 1% producer. So with that in saying, I wrote this article because I felt that black media needs to be resurrected. If you look at the origin of a lot of our publications and newspapers, they were pro-black. A lot of them were written, they wrote articles about anti-lynching, about white supremacy, about slavery. And it's not that that's all that's what we should only write about. I mean, it's not, that's not our only history. I mean, slavery and global white supremacy is but not even a centimeter in the ruler of the timeline of life. But when we look at, our legacy, there's not enough publications out here that are talking about where we come from. And I've heard about, we're kings and queens, but not everybody was kings and queens because that'd be a whole bunch of kingdoms. But we did come from a lineage that produced the arts and sciences, the mathematics, the things of that nature, that had practiced monotheism and dealt with spirituality and nature, that went to school for 42 some odd years and got 360 degrees of knowledge instead of 1 degree, which you pay for in college these days. We knew about ourselves. So black media, the article that I wrote about it is basically to get us to try to shift the refocus on getting people to start writing. Start writing about your reality. Start writing about what you perceive yourself in this world and where you want to put yourself in this world. Because if we don't start writing about these things, then we're already losing, and we're going to continue to lose.
Wow. What is your ultimate objective with the Ghetto Times?
The ultimate objective, well, this is the thing. DGT, the Ghetto Times for short, it's one of those things, man. It was, I didn't think about it. It just happened. I didn't say, I'm going to start a magazine and this is what's going to happen. The way DGT came about was because I like to run my mouth, and as I was learning information, I was trying to stop people and talk about what I had learned. I wanted to share it because I feel like, hey, if I'm feeling this, then you got to be feeling this. So I would stop people on college campus and try to talk to people about what I learned or what I read. And I also realized people had to go to class or they had to deal with their daily to-dos. So they didn't really have the time to sit there and build with me. So I figured, well, why don't I do the next best thing? And ironically, writing was something that I got D's and F's in. But I took the pen, I took the writing, and started, writing out what I experienced. And the style that I chose was, not your Western form of, I don't know what the outline for Western writing is, but I like to write how I speak. I'm having a conversation with you, so I'm not going to, sugarcoat anything. I'm going to speak directly to you, and hopefully when you're reading this, my material, that you feel like I'm actually having a conversation with you. And in doing that, it's enabled me to reach a lot of people. I was passing them out. I was just, go and photocopy them and then pass them out on campus. And then it got to the point where people were like, I read that last thing. You got any more information? And from that, that's when I started realizing, hey, I could turn this into a newsletter. And once I turned it into a newsletter, it evolved into a magazine. And I'm a graphic designer. I'm an artist by nature. I used to always draw as a kid. And so when I started seeing the computer come along with scanning and the ability to do things more than just, Microsoft Word, that you could get creative, I got into computers, and then the web came. And so I'm giving away my age a little bit, but I was here before, started before the web, you know what I mean? But once the web came, it just opened up the door. Then I realized, I can reach people on a global, massive level. So I taught myself how to do graphic design and web development, and took those skills and added that with my writing, and DGT was born April 10th, 1993.
Wow. And you've been online since 1996, is that correct?
95.
95.
January 95 we've been on. Yep.
Wow.
And the internet really started to boom around, 94? So we've been out for a while. We've been 17 years in Inception, since Inception, and we've been on the internet for 15 years. It's crazy. I'll still look back like, dang, I can't realize it's been that long, but it really hasn't been that long. But, I feel my ultimate goal, as you asked me, my ultimate goal of DGT is to inspire people to realize that our legacy needs to be preserved. I consider myself a vanguard. Maybe it's self-appointed, I don't know, but I realized, as I mentioned earlier, that our ancestors who have written the books, they're passing on. And there's not that exchange anymore of that passing of the torch, which is an article I wrote about, as you'll find on my site as well. But there's a generational gap. And because that torch isn't being passed, a lot of our people, especially my age and younger, even more so younger, don't even know about this information. All we know is what we're told every February. And that starts with Jamestown, Virginia, was it 18, shucks, I forgot the date. Jamestown, Virginia, 1863. So the issue is, I'm sorry, it was not 1863, it was 16, oh shoot. See, I got so many dates going in my head. But the point is that a lot of us think that our history started as slaves, and that's not so. So how can we get our people to know about this information if we're not ourselves going out and letting people know about it? Because I'll admit, I was intimidated to read books by Dr. Ben and Dr. John Clark and Chancellor Williams and George D. Jackson. I was intimidated because these books are thick and no pictures. You know what I mean? So that's a very intimidating thing to want to pick up a book, much less read. The language that they used was on a level I thought was higher than me. Scholastically, I think that they were speaking to, although they were trying to speak to our people, I think the language that they used spoke to those that were in academia. If you read the Ghetto Times, you'll see in just the name itself, I use Ebonics. I'm trying to bridge that gap so that maybe I can be a cliff note to what you read. If you read what I've written, then maybe you want to read Chancellor Williams or you want to read Dr. Ben and so on and so forth. Marimba Ani. These master scholars have done great work, but there has to be a way where we can tap into our hood, so to speak, and let them know that this information is here, because a lot of us don't even know. And that's the thing. I walk up and down the street today. I was just thinking about it. I'm in Brooklyn, and I look at so many of our people having a clue about our antiquity. And I'm thinking, how can I find another way to do it? I have to find another way. That's why I created DGTV, because I figured we're not reading, so maybe we'll watch. I'm still not satisfied. There has to be another way. So my ultimate goal with DGT is to be that gap, that bridge that connects street language with scholastic mentality. And hopefully we can take this information and, again, manifest something physically and put ourselves back where we're supposed to be as the elite on this planet.
I'm persistent. I'm going to make sure that I get the name correct. Mbewe Aja Mbwebe. Did I get it correct?
Yeah, you go.
Mbwebe Aja Ishangi, the Ghetto Times CEO and creator. Again, it's linked right in the description. For people, if you're not listening at Blog Talk Radio, DAGHETTOTYMZ.com. Please visit the website. I wanted to look at some of the articles that you have there. I wanted to start off, I had one of my investors, she sent me an article about the just really sad obesity rates amongst black females, in particular black people in this area of the world in general. Incredible rates of diabetes. You have 2 video articles on your website talking about sugar and the corrosive impact it has on the health of black people and how it is inexorably linked with slavery. Can you kind of break down some of the information that you share in that article?
Yeah, sure. The 2 video articles that I have, one is called Sugar, and the other one is called Sugar, Sugar. And the sugar is a I will say, and I'm going to be paraphrasing, but you can get, as the brother mentioned, you can get more in-depth information about it if you log on to my site and go to DGTV. I have two pieces. It's called White Sugar. One is called White Sugar, Killing You Sweetly, and the other one is White Sugar, The Mark of Cain. And it's ironic. I read a book written called Sugar Blues by William Duffy. And it's a white guy, and he actually broke down the origin of this sugar habit. And when we think about sugar, you know, we think, oh, it's really nothing. But if sugar was to become illegal, you would see just how addictive sugar really is. It's the number one addicted drug on this planet. Sugar is in pretty much everything. It's in the potato chips. It's in things that you wouldn't even think it would be in. It's in it. And the question is, why is it in it? And the other question is, what exactly is sugar? Because a lot of people try to confuse natural sugars with what's called refined sucrose. Refined sucrose is what, you know, we put on our cereal, what we put in, you know, what's in chewing gum. This is the sugar that I'm speaking about. It's not the natural sugar that you find in beets or sugar cane or things of that nature. The information, this is where, and I wanted to say this too, that in ancient Kemet, on the temples it was written that ignorance was a sin, that you are not on this planet to not know things. You were put here for a reason. In today's society, ignorance is bliss. It runs rampant as long as you don't know, and the thing is, people don't even care to know because they don't want to deal with the responsibility of knowing, and that's the unfortunate thing. But for those that are on that journey of wanting to know, once you know, you have to make some serious decisions. And health is one of the biggest things because health is one of the major war tactics used to keep us in this state. And as I'm talking about with sugar, I was first trying to talk about the effects that sugar has on our body. But in doing that, I found before all of that sugar has a history with slavery. And the deep thing about that is because, you know, I call them Mangamizi, which some people call the Ma'afa or the Middle Passage. The Mangamizi was based upon sugar consumption. When the Europeans started selling, or the Caucasians started selling the world and started seeing that there were spices like salts and peppers and sugars around the world, this greed, this fascination of making money and exploitation of this product, you know, just engulfed them. So what we find is that the first slaves, or the first Africans that were enslaved, were taken to create to build the crops for the sugar. And as I said before, if you go to DGTV, it breaks down the connection that slavery has, but I really want to get into also the health aspect of it because sugar, as you mentioned with diabetes and things of that nature, sugar is killing us like slowly. It's killing us slowly. And we think that as you get older, it's okay to age, it's okay to have, you know, joint problems, that it's okay to have health problems as you get older, and that's not true. That's what Western medicine wants you to believe, that you're going to die a painful, slow death. And that's not necessarily true. Of course, you'll do that if you have a poor diet. So this is what I found with sugar is that sugar is, you know, we all unfortunately still celebrate, you know, trick-or-treat and Halloween and all of that nature, that the things that sugar does is it robs your body of calcium. Now, if you think about it, when you take sugar, they say, what does it do? It rots your teeth. Your teeth are bones. So imagine if you drink Pepsi or any kind of soda or what they call soft drinks, which is, you know, really interesting why they call it soft drinks. But I found that sugar in soft drinks actually causes your bones to get soft, which is osteoporosis. So we're finding that all these ailments with sugar, and because people are becoming conscious now about sugar, they're using other alternatives, which happen to be worse, like stevia, aspartame. I tried aspartame after I had given up sugar, thinking, and unknowingly thinking that aspartame is better than sugar, and I immediately had knee problems, joint problems. And as soon as I stopped taking aspartame, the knee problems went away. Come to find out, the aspartame attacks joints, and it causes arthritis. So what we're looking at is these mad scientists. That's what we really have to look at, is what are these mad scientists doing with our food? The number one thing that they're trying to do is, one, make a profit, and they work in cahoots with the hospital administration. Doctors have to make you sick. We have to be sick or they'll make no money. This is the bottom line. So this is where, we're in a day and age of HMOs and all these different, you have to have insurance, things of that nature. 30, 40 years ago, that was not a problem. Doctors were coming to your house and we weren't eating the same kind of foods, and we didn't have the kind of ailments that we have today. But the issue that sugar has done is with the health of our people is that the obesity rate is skyrocketed, and now you can see with McDonald's being put in China, the obesity rate is raising there in China. And the bottom line with health is anything white, and this is not just about white folk, this is not a play on white folk, but anything white is not good for you. White sugar, white flour, white bread, the white flour. These things are not good, not just because they're white, but because what you're eating has been bleached out. And the sole purpose of eating is to have an exchange. You're eating food for energy, to maintain your body and to be able to go about your day. But if you're eating foods filled with white starch, your body is not getting what it needs. So what's cancer? Cancer is when the body decides to turn on itself and eat itself alive. So what we do every day, where our body is able to produce all the vitamins and minerals that we need, we have our own reserve in our own body. Okay, but when you eat, you don't give your body vitamin C, your body will take it from its reserves. If you don't give your body vitamin D or any other B12, things of these natures, the body will take it from its reserves. Now, over the years of this poor diet, of your body taking it from its own reserves and not getting it from the food you're supposed to be giving it from, the body starts to shut down because it can no longer produce the vitamins needed in its reserve. This is what cancer is. This is why sugar is one of the biggest components that, along with decayed flesh, which is called meat, is used to our intestines. There's a slick film that's put over your intestines. This slick film from decayed meat. Now your body's 98.6 degrees, so that's pretty hot. So if you're eating decayed flesh, plus you're eating white sugar and white flour and things of that nature, more than likely you're not doing the number 2 often, and you're becoming walking grave sites. If you read the book Nutricide, written by Lalo Africa, he talks about how we're walking grave sites. We don't get colonics. We think just because we do the number 2 that we got it all out of our system, when actually we didn't. Some of us have a lifetime of food still in our colon. And that's the reason why we're functioning mentally and spiritually on this lower level, because we're not eating life foods. And the bottom line is that, when we're talking about global white supremacy, as I said, there's no coincidence. You gotta, everything is happening for a reason. And when we look at the Food and Drug Administration, they're telling you right there, they put drugs in your food and drug. So we're seeing that this system that we're part of is not, they see us more as a number than a person, and it's key because that's how they make profit. I mean, I just saw a movie called Food Inc., and you can look and see how our food has been consolidated to basically 4 companies, one of them being Monsanto, that produces all the food around the world. All the farmers have to answer to these 4 companies. Monsanto has patented seeds. What I mean by patenting seeds is that if you were to take apple seeds and you would try to grow an apple tree, you couldn't, because these seeds have been patented, and they're only patented for 1 generation. So there's a whole bunch of information that we're finding with health that is used to keep us in this physical and mental state of being docile and feeling helpless and feeling like, when in Rome, walk like the Romans. But I can talk about a whole bunch of things that I just help me stay on the path. You know what I mean? Because I can go different angles, and I don't want to, I don't want to information overload the audience. You know what I mean? But I'm basically talking about how all these 10 areas are intertwined and they work with each other. And as I mentioned, when you look at who's in control of the Food and Drug Administration, it's Caucasians. When you look at who's in control of the information that we get, education, entertainment, labor, these are controlled by Europeans, and they don't even care if they're enslaving their own. It's about the elite, and it's 1% of 1% that's really running the world.
Wow. I want to make another attempt to get the name correct the first time. Mwebe Aja Ishangi.
Correct.
Outstanding. Thank you, sir. And again, thank you for your patience, sir. And again, I want to let listeners know that information about sugar. You also, in a different report, you talk about how you said sugar is in a lot of things that we don't know about. Sugar also in cigarettes, one of the chief causes of lung cancer. Make sure you go to theghettotimes.com and check out some of those video articles where he breaks that down. Excellent information. I read a different article very much related to the two reports that you did on sugar, Trick or Treat, where it seemed like you were kind of hating on the Halloween holiday. Like, what's the problem if folks just want to get dressed up one day a year and go out and have a little fun?
Well, let's put it like this. I call them Hollow-daze, as in like hollow, as in, H-A-L-L-A, can I spell? H-A-L-L-O-W, daze, D-A-Z-E. It's hollow, meaning there's nothing in there, and it has us in a daze. We're at the end of the tail end of summer, and we're going into fall, and this is really all, again, as I said earlier, is about money. It's not a coincidence that we have Labor Day, then we have Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then we have New Year's. It also falls in line with the fiscal period where the gross national product and, where America basically tries to make up most of their money that they weren't making throughout the year. So when I talk about Halloween, it's twofold. Number one, the health aspect of it, which the highest, and trust me, I used to be that dude. I used to be that kid that Halloween, I got a big bag of candy. I came home and ate it all that night. I was that dude. I was that dude that went to sleep at night with 5 pieces of, like at the time it was Bubble Yum, Bubblicious, whatever the big gum was, in my mouth. Slept that night, woke up, it was all in my head. I was a sugar fiend. I'm surprised that I did not get diabetes. But I was severely addicted to sugar. And when I tried to get off of sugar after reading Sugar Blues by William Duffy, as I mentioned, I went through withdrawal, which goes to show you that it is a drug. When you try to get off sugar, and I'm telling you, my body was shaking. I had fainting spells. I almost thought that I was a prisoner to sugar and that I would have to eat it for the rest of my life because I was tired of passing out in public. But eventually, it went through my system, and I was able to survive the withdrawal. But what I'm saying about the one-fold of the sugar aspect of it, then we're talking about the honoring or the acknowledgement of holy days that have nothing to do with African people. So, when we think about Halloween, originally we thought about, evil. At first it was about the pagans, and it was, there's Dracula, there's monsters, there's evil, there's wicketry, there's witches, so on and so forth. Today it's been commercialized. Now you have, Elmo and all these other safe and friendly characters that are now part of this holiday to, make it more commercial friendly for everyone to get involved. I personally think that we African people should not be in the celebration of any European holidays because they basically have nothing to do with us. And if they do have anything to do with us, it's about the continued degradation, if not the enslavement and even murder and theft of our people, and the murder and theft of our memory. So for me, trick or treat to me it's more of a trick. It's more about making you think that this is a holiday to celebrate, when actuality, C.O.W.S once said, and it's funny for those religious folk out there, C.O.W.S once said in his song, he said, believers of Jesus be denouncing Satan on every level, but every Halloween they dress him like devils. So the point is that, we find it conducive to celebrate things that we feel, and that's our problem too, is there's no accountability about what you believe in. There's no one there to slap you on your hand, or there's no penalty to pay if you decide to be a half Christian, or, okay, well, I'll do this part, or I'll be a vegetarian, but I'm still going to eat eggs, or, there's no physical, well, there is actually a physical ramification for it, because, you'll have health issues. But a spiritual, there's no sort of reprimand for taking on these things and not living out to the T. So that's what I found as far as with religion and holidays, is that, when we get into Thanksgiving and we look at how, African people's role in Thanksgiving, when we look at Christmas and how, for instance, if you ever been in New York City in Rockefeller Plaza, every Christmas they put this big Christmas light, but it's in front of this god Nimrod. And Nimrod wanted to be the kingdom of Babylon. So they're actually worshiping a paganistic idol. Even in the so-called Bible, if you read Jeremiah chapter 10, verse, I think it is 2 to 5, it describes a Christmas tree and how it's an abomination, how you're not supposed to, it says stay away from a tree that's fashioned with nails, and gold and silver is tied to it. So what we have is that people are choosing what they feel is conducive for their religious or their spirituality or for their health, and that's the problem, is because as a whole our people suffer. As a whole there is no structure on how to live a proper life. And that's where, I'm not saying that I have the golden answer to it, but I am saying that I feel better doing opposite of what everybody else is doing.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Do you know what alcohol sugar is?
I'm sorry, repeat that.
Alcohol sugar?
Alcohol sugar?
Yes. You know what that is? Or?
Alcohol sugar. I can't say that I do. You mean that sugar that's in alcohol, or do you mean it's a type of sugar that's called alcohol sugar?
I think it's like a type of sugar.
I can't say that I know about that. What is it used for?
I don't know if it's useful or not, but because I have this candy bar, or because it says fiber. I think 60% or something like that, 60% less fat. I thought it was a health bar, but it's really it's a candy bar. And I read the back, and it said alcohol sugar. And,
okay, I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm so glad you brought that up. If I may, and I mean to cut you off. Go ahead, you can finish.
Okay, and yes, it tastes good and everything, but yeah, I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, let me say this. Here's the scheme. Here's the scheme with sugar and so-called. There's this movement now of people being conscious about sugar, and so they're saying I'm drinking juice that says all 100% natural or sugar-free. Anything that ends with ose, like cellulose, fructose, corn syrup, anything that these are different names for sugar. Another thing is, when you're eating food, especially processed food, which is what we should eat very little to none of, if you're looking at the ingredients and you see a lot of names before you see something that you recognize, you shouldn't eat it. If you're seeing all these scientific words and, these combinations that like, what is that? You shouldn't eat it. more than likely they have sugar in it. More than likely it has canola oil in it. Especially for those I'm speaking about, for those that are trying to eat conscious, that go to the health stores or whatever. In the candy bars, or even as I mentioned before with juices, if it doesn't say no sugar added, then sugar's been added. It must say no sugar added. And then when you look at the ingredients, it should just be a couple of ingredients and words that you can recognize. So I found in going to these organic stores that they're in cahoots with it as well. Why? Because in 2006, the Food and Drug Administration had a pact with the Organic Food Organization. So now when you go into the organic food stores, you see the FDA label on their food. So the point is we have to be more skeptical about what we're putting in our bodies. Most importantly, we should look at, cooking food opposed to eating processed food. The less food that you eat that has been made in some manufacturer, or some people think even organic meat is good, and I wouldn't trust it. Just like I don't trust, I really can't trust Polar Spring water. You know what I mean? We just don't know where it's getting, but we do have to choose the lesser of two evils, or you got to make a choice. But the point is, what I'm saying is, looking at the food that you're eating, especially in organic food stores, you'll notice that over the last couple of years, there's been a dramatic increase of the use of canola oil in their foods. I did a video article on canola oil, and you can go to DGTV and you can watch it. It talks about what that is. Rapeseed is not a plant. If you put canola oil on a piece in a glass of tin or 10 glass, it'll eat up to 10, as well Pepsi would. So the point is that the stuff that we're eating, the stuff that the organic food stores now are promoting, they're in cahoots with this thing, and that's unfortunate because you think that you could go somewhere and eat good, healthy food. But I will say, because we have to pick our poisons, try to cook more, creating from scratch, getting your greens, using substitute for canola oil could be virgin green olive oil, or my favorite, which is coconut oil. Look at these things and realize that you don't need all of these additives. Your body is craving food to keep it sustain its life, to keep its sustainability. Don't think about eating at McDonald's because you just want to fill your tummy. Think about putting something, if you had an expensive car, you're not going to put no cheap gas in it. So make sure you don't put no cheap gas in your body.
I see. Do you know what stores are good to go to that have healthy food?
You know what? I think Whole Foods is a chain. I'm not exactly sure what city you're in, but in general, we are finding organic food stores popping up around the country because it is a boom. It is it's becoming a cash cow. But regardless, you can go to, even if you don't have an organic store near you, if you go to the regular supermarket, just buy potatoes, not white potatoes, but, buy greens, buy carrots, juice, make another sugar substitute that you can use is agave. Agave is from a plant, and I hope that they won't tamper with this one, but knowing them they will as it gets more popular. But the bottom line is you have to monitor the foods that you're buying. You're better off, again, eating your grains, your beans, potatoes, greens, and things of that nature, opposed to getting an aluminum can and pour the can into, boiling water and steam your vegetables and things of that nature. You need to eat light food, and that's something that I was taught also recently about food, is that food is supposed to have all the four elements. It's supposed to have fire, earth, water, and air. When you cook food, you cook out the water, you cook out the flame, the fire, which is the spark. It's not the flame, actually, it's the spark, the energy, and you also cook out the fire, the air, and the water. And the only thing that's left is the matter. So when we're looking at food, our body craves these four elements at all times. So it's better to, if you can eat raw, or if you can, when you steam your spinach or vegetables, don't steam them to where they're like, there's no life in them and they're just strained. Let them still be a little crispy. because there's life in that. In broccoli, eat salads and things of that nature. Eat, peanuts and cashews and things of that nature. There's African Holistic Health, which was written by Layla Africa, and there's a couple other books. Joel Pookrum wrote a book called Vitamins from A to Z. There's several books that are out that can help you decide what kind of foods that you can incorporate in your diet, and hopefully you can get your parents to get on board. But stay away from fast food. Stay away from, the cattle. They just had a salmonella breakout with the eggs. This is liquid meat, so some of you vegetarians that are still eating eggs and things of that nature, stay away from the tofu, the soy. That soy is causing, it raises estrogen levels, so men are developing breast and women are developing uterus cancer. So we have to be careful about these man-made inventions of food. There's a book called Fast Food Nation that I read, and it talks about this company called IFF, the International Food Foundation. They're located out here right in New Jersey off of the New Jersey Turnpike. And this is where scientists take liquids, clear water liquids, and make it taste like anything you want it to taste like. They can make it taste like grape soda. They can make it taste like lobster, watermelon. So who's to say that we're really eating what we think we're eating because they're just pouring this liquid flavor over? You could be eating a tire that tastes like a hamburger. So we have to be very key, and it makes it. I understand that when those of you that are hearing this, you're thinking, man, this is too much. I don't want to have to deal with this. Why do I have to make these decisions? Blah blah blah. I don't want to eat the red pill. I'll take the blue pill, so on and so forth. You have to make that choice, and it's not for everybody. Consciousness, knowledge is not for everybody. I used to judge people, but I can't do that anymore because I have to realize that people are living their own lives. I just hope that there's something that you can get from this conversation this evening that will inspire you to make your own decision, not based upon what was force-fed to you, but do your own research and make the best decision for you and your family.
Okay, thank you. That was awesome.
You're welcome. Bless.
I wanted to make sure I pointed out for people who are listening in live to the broadcast, or if you're listening to the archives at Blog Talk Radio, Sugar Blues. We've been mentioning that book repeatedly. William Dufty is the author. It's scrolling by. If you want to click on the book, the picture should be right there. You can click on it, get more information about it. I think you can even purchase it if you'd like to get it. I think it has a lot of great information, and Mr. Ishangi, he cites it repeatedly in his reports on sugar. Wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. And I wanted to read a little bit from the report on Halloween before we move forward, just to give you a little flavor of what you can check out at the Ghetto Times. He's writing about folks who think Halloween is okay and just, good fun, having a little candy. There will be so many people praising demonology, or rather celebrating the existence of evil and not even realize it. True indeed, if we knew exactly what we were condoning, we wouldn't continue such an act. But after you read this piece, and you do not take into account any of the points made, nor do additional research yourself, consider yourself consciously condoning these acts of beastly worship. As a human, now given the origin of Halloween, you are responsible for your acts. You shall, as well with the additional pieces on misgiving and Chris Mess, both of those are different reports on those other so-called holidays. You can check those out. I do not protest to be the creator, but I am a free thinker in control of my own mind. Everything I do in life, I will do the necessary research, be it literal or internal, to where I can represent like the responsible, free-thinking being I was designed to be. How about you, African? That's from the report Trick or Treat at the Ghetto Times, authored by one sec. Mbwebe Aja Ishangi. There we go.
Correct.
Thanks so much for patience again.
No problem, brother.
I wanted to check. I want to give about 20 minutes, and I'm going to go to the phone line. I want to see if we have enough time to get in two other reports, because you have a big series on the Boule, and I definitely want to make sure I save a few minutes for the Dwight Howard, Shaquille O'Neal conflict, the Superman complex. Justice, did you have any more questions you wanted to ask?
Yes, I did. Are you guys talking about, are you guys going to talk about Halloween?
We just covered that thing, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, could I ask just at least one question about the Halloween? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. What is the best way to talk to non-white children about the truth about Halloween?
The best way? The best way would probably, I would attempt to expose to them, first thing people think of Halloween, they think of, especially kids, they think about is candy. So maybe I would introduce organic candy that is made without refined sucrose, that's made with natural sugars, because there are some out there. I would introduce them to that. I wouldn't even tell them what it is. I would maybe have them, try it and then let them know, ask them what they think about it. They might not think not much about it, but until you tell them, that's not made with real sugar, there you open up a dialogue about, now you have them open at least to understanding what they just put in their mouth, wasn't the typical thing that they usually eat. From that, and again, you have to be careful about, ordinarily, I would say just go for the jugular and just be raw about it. But, we have to think about the repercussions of once someone is exposed to truth. Like I said, I went through a lot of withdrawal and anger when I first was first revealed to me that the Emancipation Proclamation didn't really free Africans. So, I had an ordeal with that. So for a child to learn about Halloween, something that they probably enjoyed participating in, and would feel awkward not participating in it, not wearing the costume, or not being able to give away or even go collect candy. It's a very delicate situation, but for the most part, I would try to keep away the demonology about it, as far as because that can get religiously based, but just basically, history for history's sake. Speak about the origin of it. How do you think Halloween came about? What do you know about witches and evil and horror films and that kind of stuff? Is that something how do they view that? Is it positive? Is it helpful? Does it make you feel godlike, or does it make you feel wicked? You know what I mean? Maybe you could take that perspective to find out how they feel, because I've also found that with the continued advancements of video games and the violent video games, kids have become even more violent. They become less involved in sports and more prone to play video games and shooting and killing. And so I look at Halloween, or the celebration of subliminal evil things, as no different. It's just it's just not as has a blatant effect as video games have had. So again, I would try to, speak to them directly about it, but also ask them, where do you see yourself in this discussion? Where do you perceive, what's your views on horror? What's your views on evil and things of that nature? And then maybe that could allow you to get more into the historical aspect of celebrating holidays. It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Or you could call me. You could call me and I could help you. How about that?
Okay. Thank you. I really, really appreciate the information.
No problem.
Yes, okay. I'll be off for now.
Okay.
Context of white supremacy. As I said, Mr. Ishangi, he has a series dealing with the Boule, talking about the National Association for the Advancement of Certain People. Very interesting information. I guess for folks who are listening in who have not really heard anything about the Boule, Could you start off just kind of explaining who this group is and why this is relevant to racism, white supremacy?
Okay. There's a series of movies that's been coming out recently. What is it? And I don't go to the movies or whatever, but it's too expensive and really not entertaining. But what is it? Well, basically these movies have step shows and stuff, and I can't remember what it is, but maybe if you know it, shout it out. But I forget what the name is. But
I don't do the movies either.
Yeah, I forgot what it was called, but a new one is coming out. It's like step shows and blacks and and dance and all that kind of stuff. And even this incorporated with white folks. There's a couple other ones that they've been doing for the last couple of years. I want to say step or something. I can't remember what it's called, but the bottom line is the Boule is. Well, a lot of us are familiar with fraternities and sororities, and if you're not familiar with what those are, if you attended college, especially if you attended a historical black college, you're familiar with step shows. You're familiar with alphas, kappas, Qs, sigmas, deltas, AKAs, sigma, gamma, rho, zetas, iota. You're familiar with all these black Greek lettered fraternities and sororities. Outside looking in, they're seen as elite organizations that embody prestigious students that do enormous work for the community. Well, I won't say enormous, but they do work for the community, to service projects, things of that nature. But in addition to that, there's a history behind that many aren't aware of, even the actual members of these fraternities and sororities. Number one, the Boule, which is also called Sigma Pi Phi, which was found May 15, 1904. They were founded basically before the Alphas. The Alphas were founded in 1906, and I thought that they were the first black fraternities in America. Found out that Sigma Pi Phi is actually the first fraternity, but it's actually a collegiate or professional graduate fraternity. So it's not an organization, not a fraternity that's on the undergraduate level. This organization is actually responsible for the creation of the alphas and the other 8 or 9 sororities and fraternities that we have become accustomed or know about. The thing about the Boule is that the Boule was founded from another organization, and this organization is Skull and Bones. Now, I have to go back before I can go forward. So when we look at Skull and Bones, if you've never heard of Skull and Bones, I'm sure you've heard of George Bush. You've heard of George Bush Jr., George Bush Sr., you heard of John Kerry. These are politicians that were part of this secret society that was founded, the first fraternity in America. It was called Phi Beta Kappa, which is now an honor society. Well, back in the 1700s, when this fraternity was founded, there were people that found out about its allegiance to Satan or wickedness, and basically they were ousted. So Phi Beta Kappa was brought to the limelight, and therefore they were no longer a secret society, but the fraternity created a second chapter, which is called Skull and Bones, and it was founded in New Haven, Connecticut in 1832. Now, Skull and Bones, the thing about Skull and Bones is that when you look at not just, the Bushes, we got to go back before that. We got to go back to Lord Rothschild's. We got to look at Cecil Rhodes. This is the Rothschild Secret Society. This secret society was founded by a group of elite bloodline white families that basically are probably the creators or co-creators of global white supremacy. So when we look at Rothschilds and we look at Cecil Rhodes, used to own the diamond mines in South Africa. They were later turned to be owned by De Beers, and now they're owned by Oppenheimer. The South African quarries, the diamond mines, if you're familiar with that, is even open to this day. They are involved they're responsible rather for the murder and actually enslavement of millions of Africans, basically mining out the diamonds, and they've used for exploitation to create profit. When you look at Cecil Rhodes, he was a guy that first of all, he was homosexual. And I say that it was key because a lot of the Greeks, their origins are rooted in homosexual practices. Cecil Rhodes used to take young African boys and sodomize them, and when he was finished with them, he'd throw them over a cliff, killing them, so that he wouldn't sodomize the same African twice. This is what the Boule, which was founded by 6 black men out of Philadelphia. I got a copy of their history book on page 38. It talks about how they wanted to create an organization based on the tenets of Skull and Bones. When I say tenets, that's what it said in the book, quote, is tenets of Skull and Bones, means they want to create an organization that is just like Skull and Bones. Now, Skull and Bones is an anti-African organization. So why would you have, here we have a group of black men, professional black men, all physicians, that want to create an organization that will continue the degradation of African people. And basically what we have is we have the Greek organizations that pay homage not to Africa but to Greeks. So if you look on my site, I have a series called the Boule series, and I get into the breakdown, as I mentioned earlier, about coincidences. If you look at their shields, the symbols that they use, a lot of this deals with pointing to global white supremacy. This stuff is not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that we find that, for instance, Delta Sigma Theta sorority, on their shield they have a white woman named Minerva. She's supposed to be the queen, or the goddess of wisdom. Well, we found that Minerva, along with a whole bunch of other Greek, quote-unquote, gods or whatever, are actually facsimiles or actually pirated versions of African deities. So Minerva, the actual person, the African version of Minerva, the original one, is Neat. So I asked the question to Delta Sigma Theta, a black sorority who has a white woman on their shield. Zeta Phi Beta, Sigma Gamma Rho. Sigma Gamma Rho has a skull and crossbones on their shield. This is a female organization, a black female organization with a skull and bones on their shield. When we look at the Boule itself, these brothers, they were involved in the Tuskegee experiment. The physicians that injected syphilis into black men were part of the Boule. There's doctrine, I have documentation that supports that. There's a lot of information that shows that, when we look at Jesse Jackson, a lot of our self-appointed, leaders are part of this elite organization called the Boule. Martin Luther King had spoke about how he didn't trust Jesse Jackson. Jesse Jackson was in the Boule. Even Martin Luther King was in the Boule. It's really interesting, and I don't even know if we have enough time to really get into the whole, vegetable base of what the Boule is, but bottom line is the Boule is an organization made up of black men that prefer to be white. And they've passed on that same ideology to the collegiate ranks where you have alphas, AKAs, and on down, wanting to be Greek opposed to being African. And if you look in history, nowhere in history did the Greeks and Africans work together harmoniously. Africa, and particularly the Nile Valley area, which we could call Kemet, or even Wose or No, or Thebes, is an area that was invaded by, and if you read Chancellor Williams' book, Destruction of Black Civilization, he goes into great detail about it. This is an area where Europeans, Arabs, and Asians came into Africa and exploited our people by basically sealing off our borders, enabling us, basically stopping us from being able to do trade and export, and then they moved in on us. It's gentrification. It's the same kind of gentrification that we're experiencing now in our American urban areas where white people are starting to come in, and now they're trying to take over. This is the same thing that happened millenniums ago in Africa, And the issue now is that we have African people. Let me just give you another example about how effective the Boule is. They were founded in 1904. Now, you have to remember, 1904, just 30, 40 years ago, we were enslaved. We were picking cotton. We were not allowed to read. So you had this organization now 30, 40 years later that is on a collegiate campus that allows you to learn and read and become intelligent, so quote unquote, under the white educational system. This fraternity was founded along the same period the Urban League was founded, the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Certain People, was founded. We have the United Negro College Fund was founded. All these organizations, the Niagara Movement, all these organizations, and I must add, and we did a piece on the NAACP, they were not founded by black people. They were founded by two Jewish spies. We have our black historic organizations are all founded around the same time, around 30, 40 years after emancipation. Why did they do this? Because they wanted to make sure that now that we're so-called free, that they could control the type of information that we be exposed to. If you look at the Marcus Garvey movement, Marcus Garvey was saying Africa for the Africans, not just for the sake of it, but because he knew that Rockefeller, Cecil Rhodes, and Rothschild was over in Africa taking away our natural resources and creating billions, millions, if not gazillions off of it. Wall Street would not be Wall Street if it wasn't for an enslavement of African people and the stealing of its resources. So Marcus Garvey was saying that we need to go back and claim our land and get our resources and come to the table not with our hands out, but making situations happen. What white folks did was they basically, because it was blatant, you knew that white folks didn't like black folks, so what they had to do was strategically get black folks to go against each other. So in comes the Boule. You had Elaine Locke, the first black Cecil Rhodes scholar, who was a flaming faggot. You had Debbie B. Du Bois, who, even though later on he turned out to be, he eventually became a Pan-African dying in Ghana, for a very long period of time, he was in the Boule. Along with him, you also had Carter G. Woodson, who wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro. Now, I have a beef with both Debbie B. Du Bois and I have a beef with Debbie B. Du Bois, and also have a beef with who is this guy? This guy I just mentioned, Carter G. Woodson, because they did not do what George G.M. James did. George G.M. James wrote the book Stolen Legacy. He was a Freemason, and if any of you are familiar with Freemasons back in the day, if you told any of the secrets, they were supposed to be killed. Well, in 1954, George G.M. James came out with Stolen Legacy. When Stolen Legacy came out, he mysteriously disappeared and died. He was later found with his throat cut from ear to ear, and his tongue was cut out. This brother wrote this book revealing that African history is stolen Greek philosophy, or Greek history is stolen African history. He basically was able to connect the dots and showing that the Greeks, and we're talking about Aristotle, Plato, Socrates, all these cats, they make us learn when we take these Greek classes, they all stole this information, plagiarized it from Africa, from the Nile Valley mystery schools. And on top of that, a person like Aristotle, who allegedly wrote 1,000 books on 1,000 different topics, on their deathbeds, they basically confess where they got the information from the Nile Valley. When we look at Napoleon who came to Kemet and saw Haramaket, which is people erroneously call the Sphinx, and you know that the nose and the lips are chiseled off. Well, why is that? He took 21. He took this cannons and shot 21 cannons to the nose and the lips to deface it, where we get today's 21 gun salute in honor of that, to deface the African protruding nose and lips, because they had never seen. White folk up to that point thought that they were the masters of civilization, but when they came to Kemet and Nile Valley, they realized that, whoa, these people have done things that we never done. Our ancestors created electricity from use of the Ankh. We had underwater sewage. We had running water. So these are things that we created. We knew, and the Dogon, with the help of the Dogon, we knew that the earth was round, and we knew about astrology. This was way before Galileo. So what we're finding is when people talk about these so-called illustrious, infamous scientists and things of that nature, what they created or what they discovered, they didn't discover anything. They plagiarized it. Our ancestors were the first of civilization. And because of that, and because Europeans know that, in particular Masons, and here's another jewel, if you go to my site, DGTV, I have a piece called The Classified Origin of D.C., and it gets into the Masonic origin of America and how you can see ancient Kemet in D.C. Anthony Browder does a tour there. Everyone should go there if you get a chance. It basically points out that the Masons are the vanguards of our true story. And if you approach a Mason with the right knowledge, they will acknowledge you, and they will acknowledge that you're telling the truth. But they still conceal the information amongst themselves in the 33rd degree. So the point when I'm talking about now getting into Masonry and conspiracy and all that stuff of that tangent is that it's important for the European or the Caucasian to make sure that African people don't know who we are, because if we do, there'll be no use for them. So this is why you have, W.B. Du Bois, who wrote for the Crisis magazine. You have Elaine Locke. You have Carter G. Woodson, who were against Marcus Garvey, calling him a gorilla and go back to Africa and all this kind of stuff, because they didn't want blacks who are now becoming educated to want to know anything about Africa. They wanted them to pay homage to Greece. So that's why you have black fraternities, and it's so funny how even I was in a fraternity for 7 years, and I didn't know, and once I did, I made a decision and I got out. But for those that are still, know about this information and still choose to be in a fraternity or sorority, they say, well, I'm not a black Greek, I'm just in a black Greek letter fraternity or sorority. Well, let me ask you this. If the Ku Klux Klan 100 years from now started allowing membership for black people, would you join? Emphatically, most people would say no. Why? Because they know the origin of the KKK. They know they were founded to kill and lynch African people, so they wouldn't even think about joining it. Same should be put for fraternities and sororities, because what we're doing is we're holding the banner of our oppressor. The Greeks came in, the Persians came in, the Arabs, everyone came into the Nile Valley, not as friends, but foes. They came in and they destroyed us, they murdered us, they plagiarized us, and then they enslaved us. So this information about our legacy, this so-called talented 10th that attend college, are the talented 10th that are basically maintaining the tenets of global white supremacy, not of African ideology. And I challenge any Greek out there that want to go down, because I've done this research and I've done it thoroughly, and I can prove that there's nothing African about these fraternities and sororities. To the point where even now you get black people that don't want to be considered African, and that's the problem. So, brother, I could talk all day, man. You better slow me up.
I was appreciating.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
No, I said I could just keep going, man. So you just tell me when to stop.
I was appreciating the information. I hope people listening in, I hope they were appreciative as well. This is one of their favorite topics. So I don't know if you feel this has been a constructive use of your time and energy. Perhaps we can get you back on the program at some point, and we can pick like one specific subject and just lock in on that, so you'll have more time to kind of just give your view on one thing specifically, as opposed to a more general view of what you do on the website.
Any way you want to rock it, brother, I'm with you. And a friend of mine she texted me the movie Stomp the Yard. Stomp the Yard is a series of movies like that, and there's a couple other new ones that are coming out with all these fraternities and sorority step shows and stuff like that. And I just wanted to paraphrase too that step shows in particular, they are African in origin. Some of the steps are African in origin, which shows that we still have the connection to our ancestral background. But the issue is now is that some of these fraternities are partaking in Greek rituals. For instance, the Q.S, and I'm just not pointing them out, but I'm just going to point them out for now. The Q.S, if you've ever been to see Omega Psi Phi do a step show, most of the time you'll see what do? They pull their pants down, and they show their ass. Now, that's homosexual. I'm sorry, if there's a bunch of men standing around each other, showing their butts, stomping. All the girls are screaming, "Oh, he looks cute." You know, but really, that's a Greek ritual. That's a Greek ritual. So this is something, I did a lecture at a couple of universities, and I pointed that out, and some of the Qs got upset, but then one Q was like, you know what, I mean, you got a point. You know, what we're doing is not African. So I've had some people that were in fraternities that got out of the fraternities and even shared some of their quote-unquote secrets. There are some that still ice grill me when they see me, but the bottom line is, you know, you can't take this information personal. You know, we weren't around. We didn't create these organizations. We just came into these organizations knowing only one side of it. And, yeah, they look attractive. You see fraternities and they got these auxiliaries and they got all the fly honeys. You want to be a part of that. But understanding the origin of fraternities in any organization that you join, be it religious or be it, just, on the hum, is we have to really understand the origin of why these fraternities, why these organizations exist. Are they African in base or are they anti-African? And with Greeks and fraternities, sororities, they're definitely anti-African. And I'll even go further and say even with religion, you'll find that they're anti-African. But again, I can go on all day, man. So you better
I'm just thankful you could share a little bit of your time. Did I interrupt you? I'm sorry, sir.
No, you didn't, brother. Like I said, I enjoy speaking, man. And I mean, just as much as I enjoy listening, but when I get I'm over here sweating. I'm excited. You know what I mean? So I get into it because I love sharing information. You know what I mean? Because our people need to know. I mean, some people ask me, well, if you would have known this before you pledged a fraternity, would you have joined? And more than likely I wouldn't have. But I don't see me joining as a curse anymore because I can give you firsthand testimony of what happens in fraternities and sororities. I can connect the dots to the Greek lineage versus the African lineage, and I've written about this all this information on my website. And the reason why I put this out there is because this information needs to be known. This is a conversation that must happen. If we're to exist in this next millennium. I mean, African people, we're a dying breed, and it's not by choice; it's out of ignorance. So, for me, it's I enjoyed the opportunity for having to run my mouth and talk about, topics of this nature.
Outstanding. I think I even got the name. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Justice.
Okay. Do you mind if, is it just about to get off? Or?
Did you have a question? Because I was just going to ask one question and go to the phone line. Did you have a question?
Oh, no. Not, well, yes, but first I want to ask this. Do you mind if, after, maybe some other time, could you come back on the show and talk about more about sugar?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I could, and that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm trying to cover is those 10 areas. So I pretty much try to be, a little bit about each of those areas. So if we want to, we can do one just strictly on health. We can do one on entertainment. We can do one on conspiracies. Whatever the brother will allow me to do. I mean, I'm definitely down for it.
Okay. I would like to ask a question. Why do you not work for for NASA, and did you go out in space?
Well, okay. I didn't work for NASA per se. I worked for the educational department of NASA at the university where I attended. So I wasn't, an aspiring astronaut or anything like that. Even though I have an intense love for space, metaphysics. I mean, I got a series. Actually, there's a video article on BGTV that's called Time. It's called The Inner Mind's Eye, and that deals with space and the connection that we have. Because I don't. In addition to us being African people, we're also spiritual beings, and that's a whole nother topic that I would love to get involved with and have this discussion, because metaphysically, we are much greater than dealing with global white supremacy. We're much older than that, and our purpose in life is much grander or more grand than, dealing with this Caucasoid, because he's really not that big of an issue when it comes to our purpose of being here.
Thank you. That'll be all for now.
Okay.
Yeah, I will. We have quite a few folks that called in. I'm going to try and see if I can get through to some of the callers. Person, I believe this is 818 ebonynewschannel.blogspot.com. Did you have a question for Mr. Ishangi?
Yes, I just want to say I love your site. A friend of mine turned me on through it first through the canola article, and now it's hard to shop at Costco because almost everything has canola oil in it. Yeah. And then the Jesus Haru video or article, so I enjoyed that very much. That helped me on my exit out of Christianity.
Great.
I wanted to ask you, I really like your site, the whole setup, the means of, putting the information out in that way. And I wanted to know, do you do any type of workshops or guidance, or would you be able to help those of us who want to also create, websites that do both video and articles to get information out to our people?
Most definitely. I actually am open to do those kind of workshops. I actually work with some kids as well and teaching them the ability to create web production because I definitely feel like it's a freer way. Before the internet, you had to have a lot of money up front to even put out a magazine or even an article. You had to hope that you could get accepted by Ebony or Essence, which I wasn't, which led me to creating DGT. But yeah, definitely, I would be more than happy. For me, the more information outlets out here that I don't look at it as competition. I look at it as the more that are out there, the more people that will be reached. This is, I think, a contagious movement. Once people start getting the information and knowing about themselves, and they open up, you'll find, as I said, you look to the left or right, you're going to see a lot of people checking the same path because we all are on this quest of questions. It's just a matter of us sitting down and having this conversation. So, yes, I would definitely, my information, I can give that to you, or you can get it off of my website, and just give me a buzz, and we can try and set something up. And it can be done in person or remotely. It doesn't matter. We got the internet. We can even do it remotely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, and blessings on your continued journey.
Thank you, you too.
Person who called in, this Mr. Nero. Mr. Nero, did you have a question for Mr. Ishangi?
Greetings. Can I be heard?
Yes, sir.
Wonderful. Mr. Ishangi, I just was wondering, sir, first, thanks for coming on the show, and wow, I mean, it's been astonishing information that you've been sharing. And for one, what was the name of the book you recommended about the sugar?
Sugar Blues by William Dufty.
Sugar Blues, okay.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I want to ask is, what are some of the other things that you find in foods that give the false impression of it being possibly good for you? And I think one example would be maybe natural flavors, because I don't know what that means, but it sounds suspicious now after listening to your interview.
Well, yeah, I would definitely. That's the thing, is there's been a movement of 100% natural. That doesn't mean there's no sugar in it. When you see again, the label must say no sugar added, and that's where we're at today. I mean, these things could change because bottom line is, because we don't have a green thumb and we're not the one creating these foods, we really don't know what they're putting in there. But I will say that the labeling is key. Whenever you're buying something, look at what you're reading. Make sure that the sodium level is down. You're better off staying away from canned goods because it's in aluminum, and aluminum is a carcinogenic. It causes cancer. Anything kept in aluminum. So I would stay away from canned goods. Get dry beans and soak them the night before and cook them, and they'll be better than the canned goods. I would, however, buy canned goods in case there's a catastrophic event, because we know FEMA ain't gonna be there for us. But I will say that for everyday living and everyday eating, I would definitely get to the basics. Get to the basics in regards to what you're eating. I mean, when you think about it, there's so many different varieties of food that ever since I became a vegan, my choice of food has been immensely dropped. And sometimes it pisses me off because I do miss, the taste of certain things. I mean, I was raised on meat, and I haven't been eating meat for over 20 years, yet I still have the cravings because I was raised on it. But, I would definitely stay away from tofu-based foods. As I mentioned before, it raises estrogen levels in men, and it causes tumeric cancer in women. I would, again, with ingredients, if you got long scientific words you can't even pronounce, don't use it, don't buy it, don't eat it. Stay away from the soy products, the dairy, and like I said, just keep it practical. Keep it. And another thing we need to work on is our alkaline base. That's another thing. As for we have a PhD level. There's several books that you can find out on alkaline. If you want to email me, I can send you. I have a list of books I could give to you rather than recite them now, and then you're not be able to write them all down. You can just email me, and I can send you all the books that I've read that have helped me, as far as my diet and even spirituality is concerned. So and hopefully that'll help you. But alkaline is another thing we need to get involved with in understanding our alkaline base. I could go on, like I said, a whole bunch of different tangents, but for you listeners, if you want a list of books that I've read that I recommend, I'll definitely more than happy to share that with you. You there? Hello? Hello? Did I lose you?
Muted myself. Nope, I muted myself. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Nero. Gentlemen, or I don't know who this is, 5716, last four digits, 5716. Did you have a question? $5716, are you just listening? Okay. The new rule, since lots of people, I told you the phone line was full today before the show started. That might be you, Mr. Ishangi. They might, have just been waiting patiently for you to come through. But the phone line was full when the show started. If I go to the line, at least give me a yes or a no. I don't think that's asking too much to just let me know if you're just listening or what have you. And a couple folks haven't said anything. So let me know, since a lot of people are calling in now, those would be the people that I would bump off the line since you're not being responsive. So just respond, yes or no, I'm listening, so I can move forward efficiently. Let me see. There are other folks who called in. I'm not sure who has a question. Shadow, did you have a question for Mr. Ishangi? Shadow, your line should be open.
No, I'm just listening for now, Gus. Thank you.
No problem. Let's see. Someone called in 9754. Last four digits 9754. Did you have a question?
Yes. Hello.
Greetings.
Yes, greetings. This is really interesting because I had never heard of your guest before, Brother Mbwebe. Thank you so much for all the information that you've put out here this evening, and the brother host for bringing this light to us this evening. It's interesting because I had never heard of you before, and I had just happened to be scanning, and I found one of your articles on another website, not your website, but another website, and you were speaking about black women being revolutionaries and why that is necessary, and that role has been important for black women, and the struggle that black women are facing at this time to overcome white supremacy in a way that is really at odds. We're not, on one hand, for us to get brothers who are on our level, it's almost bleak, And it's just like, a sister is suffering, okay? It's very, very difficult to even attain having brothers that you can call your own anyway. that's on that level. And so as a result, so many of us are suffering from a great deal of isolation and not being able to be a support for our black men who need that support. And we still need men to be on our level so that they can continue to guide us. You know, being the heart of the revolution as a black woman, I'm dismayed by the amount of men that I see that I can't even connect with on a level. And that's really, really hard for I. So I really like to hear what you have to say about what you see in regards to, you know, being out there or what have you. You know, maybe from a male perspective, you may say the same thing. There's not a whole lot to choose from in terms of sisters who are truly trying to gravitate to the essence of their womanhood and essence of revolution and being an African woman. So, thank you. I'll hang up.
Okay. She's referring to a piece I wrote back in '97 called "Sisters Can Spark the Revolution," and you know, in summation, the piece deals with my ongoing battle with trying to get brothers to step up. You know, we can have ciphers. I mean, I can have hours and hours of ciphers building about this and that, but when it comes to putting a plan together, you know, very seldom if few or few even show up, or they come with excuses. And I find that COINTELPRO had an operation. It was a 3-point system, and this system was basically one was the highest, one being the highest point, and 3 being the lowest. And it was basically organizations that would pose a threat to their operation. So any organization that was ran by men, any black organization that was ran by men received 3 points. Any organization that was ran by men and women, black men and women, received 2 points. And any organization that was ran by women received 1 point. Now, this is deep because even COINTELPRO and these cats know that black women, any organization run by women, would be more of a threat to their organization and their operation of global white supremacy than any other form. And why is that? So my question, you know, was about realizing, well, not even my question, but the piece was basically trying to outline this issue and realizing that, you know, if we, you know, too often we talk about the kings and too often, you know, our most prominent leaders, they're supposedly men, you know. Farrakhan, well, who writes Farrakhan's speeches? His wife does. You know, they say, well, behind a great man stands a great woman. I think it should be beside, if not in front of. You know, we're not told a lot about women of antiquity that really, you know, was on their grind and was really about what they was doing. If we looked up, like, one great queen of antiquity is Hatshepsut. She was dope in the mere fact that not only was she a war general, she went to battle, came home, she strategized, she used her sexiness to basically, you know, manipulate her foes, and she was undefeated as a warrior that Napoleon didn't even want to fight her because the threat of, you know, the thought of fighting her, he knew he would lose. So he didn't even think about trying to face her. So the point is, with that piece is that, you know, I really do believe that if sisters basically came out with a point or with a plan where they said, you know, in order for you, because the bottom line, everything the brother does is to impress the sister. So if the sister like went on this sabbatical, this moratorium, and said, you know what, brothers, you're not going to see none of this. You're not going to see me. Not, you know, there's not going to be any kind of relationship unless you read this book and understand it. Most brothers, well, you get a few that are like, you know what, nah, she all revolutionary and militant. I ain't trying to get with that. I'm going to go deal with this white chick. Well, we didn't want them anyway, so they can have that. But for the brothers that start reading certain books and getting this knowledge, hopefully we'll be tapped into the ancestral data bank and become that heru that we are supposed to be and take our place in our role of liberation of our people. So with the help of African women, I think that we can get that. I do wish and I hope that there are more outspoken African sisters that will come out and be vocal about what they believe in. You know, we have Marimba Ani, we have Jewel Pukram, we have, you know, a lot of sisters that or several sisters that I'm aware of, but we need more. We need new generational women, too, to come out and be outspoken about things that are needed for the diaspora. So I'll cut it short because I know there's a couple minutes left, but in a nutshell, the piece was called Sisters Can Spark the Revolution.
Wait a minute. Someone called in, someone called in 7908. 7908, did you have a question? See, they're not responding. See, I just prompted about that. Yes or no? It's simple. I mean, gosh, yes or no? Do you have a question? 7908.
No, I don't have a question, brother.
Thank you.
My mouth was full.
Thank you. You're all good. All good.
Hopefully you're eating a salad, brother.
Yes, no sugar.
Eating a salad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right on. Thank you for calling me.
You can still be manly and eat a salad. You know what I mean? All right, oh, my bad. Let me get off of that.
I was, I won't say manly, but I was very fit and vegan for a long time, and I would still be doing that if they make it expensive. Like racist white supremacists make it expensive to be healthy. I mean, sugar is cheap. Like sugar is subsidized. Like go in Whole Foods and look at the things that are good for you and write down a price list, and then go to like any regular grocery store and just write down the prices. That will be a staggering illustration of white supremacy, because generally white people are the only ones that can shop at Whole Foods. Let me make sure I say that again. Generally speaking, white people are the only folks who shop at Whole Foods.
Yeah. Well, let me say this too, though. In addition to that, is because people tell me that, and I do understand it. You know, it is expensive to try to eat better. I won't say eat right, because we don't know if the food is, right at all. But I will say this, that you can either pay for it now or pay for it later when you go to the hospital. So it's a determination of, and again, you don't even have to shop at Whole Foods, but you can just get the basics. Go to your local market and get salads, eat green leafy vegetables. Don't boil them or steam it all out. Make sure that they're still crisp. Buy beans. You can buy beans and rice by the pound. Buy potatoes and vegetables. These are things that you can eat, and they're at pretty much every supermarket. So I mean, I totally agree with you, brother, that is another separation that is created to keep African people. We can't afford to eat right, so we have to. That still doesn't mean that we should go get the dollar menu. That's what I'm basically saying is, you know what I mean? And they're trying to push it that way, because now McDonald's is allegedly, using all of these whole, grains or whatever, which is a lie. You're allowed to lie when you advertise, which is crazy. People still don't understand that. But
the police are allowed to lie too. That was on a previous show we did. The police are allowed to lie. So everybody, all white people are allowed to lie. That's all you need to know.
That's right. That's right. Part of that DNA. Or life.
The person that called in, getting confused. 4404. 4404. Did you have a question?
No, sir. Can you hear me? I'm just listening. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Oh, you're good. Thank you. He responded. See, thank you. Appreciate it. Let's see. Khadijah, did you have a question? Khadijah, did you have a question? Okay, she's just listening. Mr. Foster, did you have a question? They're not responding. Maybe
no.
Oh,
no.
Thank you. All good. Thank you. Appreciate it. I want to be respectful of your time. We're at the 2-hour mark. Do you have time for another question, or if you have to go?
Hey, I'm here, brother. I'm here.
Okay. The Superman complex, that was the first article that I read when I went to your website, and that was where I was like, oh, man, 818 Ebony News Channel .blogspot.com. She was telling me about your site as a way to generate funds countering racism. And the first article I read was the Superman complex. And I just said, man, this is, I got to get this guy on the show. Like, this is incredible. I want to just give them a little taste of what I read, right? And then you can take it away. Is that okay?
Okay, no problem. all
right. This is on the website, theghettotimes.com. It's DAGHETTOTYMZ.com. Okay. And this is the Superman complex. A child dreams of being the latest superhero. What could be wrong with that? Plenty, if the child is black and can't even imagine a hero the same color he or she is. It's like this. Children learn by what they see. And if it weren't for black media, a black child wouldn't see the world as it really is. This is taken from early 1980 ad put out by the Black-Owned Communications Alliance. Okay, and the article goes on. I don't want to read the whole thing. I'm going to skip down and read your quote, and you can take it away. Okay. Some may immediately think this is a far reach, the conflict between Dwight Howard and Shaquille O'Neal, in disbelief that Shaq and Dwight Howard are trying to out-white each other by calling themselves the original Superman or walking out of phone booths at slam dunk contests. You say this is not just, fun and games, NBA, no harm. You say.
I mean, I basically say that it's unfortunate that, we're still fighting for white acceptance. We still see that this has been proven from the baby doll test, when black kids choose the white baby doll, even they did it 50 years ago, they're still doing it today. And again, as I mentioned when this conversation first began, it's because of what we consistently see. We're consistently exposed to white imagery as beauty. When we turn on the TV, when we flip the channel, when we see, the only thing that we're seeing excelling in is in sports. You know what I mean? But even in sports, athletes want to, again, in this situation, when they see something, the figment of power is a white man. In actuality, he's an alien, but donned a white skin. So for me, I see that the issue is because we don't see enough positive imagery, not only on TV and in the media, but not even in our neighborhood, and that was systematically done. If you look at the origin of, for instance, welfare. Welfare was created, a recipient could not receive welfare if the man was in the house. So what happened? The man got kicked out. When the man was roaming the street, what did they have to do? The only thing they had to do was, that was available to them was getting involved in a drug game. We have documentation that shows that COINTELPRO and the CIA is involved with, bringing in drugs into the community after the Vietnam War. So these things that we're talking about is all interwoven. These are strategic plans that are created and upgraded probably on a daily basis on maintaining global white supremacy. So if it's not, if it's not drugs, then it's in sports. And in particular with this article, we see that you have two grown men, much taller and probably, first of all, more realer because, Superman is a figment of a white man's imagination. But you have these men that are ready to put decals of this logo on their own body and dress up just like him and try to act like him, even though they look nothing like him. And it's just a joke to me because, for instance, what was it? A lot of this hype came around the All-Star weekend, which was this past February. There were some things that Shaq said about Dwight Howard impersonating him, and it was funny because he said, "I'm the real Superman," and it's just like, dude, Superman is a trademark by DC Comics.
Superman is owned by white people. Would that be accurate?
Exactly. Created and owned by white folks. So what are you saying, that you're more of a Negro or you're more, that's what he's basically saying. I'm owned by white folk, not you. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And that's how deep it is, because we don't even see how intense this self-hatred is and how effective it is. You know what I mean? And for those that try to do something and make a statement, they're ostracized. And particularly, we can remember Craig Hodges. Craig Hodges played for the Chicago Bulls. He played with Michael Jordan. And even there was, I forgot his name, Jackson. I believe it was
Abdul.
Yeah, exactly. He changed his name. Before it was something Jackson, and he didn't want to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance, and he didn't wear any Nike, he didn't wear labels on his shoes. Well, because of that, he was kicked out of the league. Same thing with Craig Hodges. So for those that try to do something, they're kicked out. Well, I say this: rather than worry about kicking out, create your own. But, obviously we're not even at that point now. But this is where we should be by now, is where, we are creating our own heroes, imagery of our own heroes, so that, most importantly, our children can see positive men and women that are content in their skin. But we don't have that yet, and that's something that, it's a condition, it's an epidemic, and it's going to take a lot of education to first recognize it, realize that you're a victim about it, and then try to create the solution to the issue.
Man, I was listening to one of your video articles, context of white supremacy. I think a very constructive broadcast with our guest. Make sure I get it correct. Wait a minute, dang. Mwebe Aja Ishangi. There we go.
Correct.
The Ghetto Times. Incredibly patient. He's tolerated my ignorance the whole program with incorrectly pronouncing his name, and shared a lot of great information. You said in one of your video articles that you didn't believe in coincidences, and I don't either. You said pay close attention to those. We didn't deviate at all, even in touching on incredible, bringing up the connection with Craig Hodges. And it's Chris Jackson, Mahmoud Abdul. There we go. Jackson changed his name, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. He played for the Denver Nuggets. I'm in Seattle. He played for the Denver Nugget team that beat Seattle when they were the #1 seed. Sean Kemp was on that team. Dikembe Mutombo. Basketball was my heroine. I used to, anyway. But yeah, Chris Jackson. He played with Shaquille O'Neal in college. They played on the same team at LSU. That did not win a national championship. And they called out, I remember this vividly. I was researching. Libraries are incredible. Go to the library. You can learn about Cecil Rhodes. You can learn about all of this stuff. Sugar Blues is there. Go to the library. I was in the library, and they have newspaper clippings. You can go back and get the newspaper. Like if you're at a major university, you can look at the newspaper for like the last 150 years. Like you can get any New York Times that was ever printed and look at it. I mean, just incredible information. I was looking through the newspaper archives for something totally not related to this, and found this story of Mahmoud Abdul Rauf when he wouldn't pledge for the flag. And they called out their biggest guns like Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, all of these guys, and they were slick. They got Hakeem Olajuwon, who is also a Muslim, to come out and say, oh, that's bad. Muslims are supposed to do the correct thing. He should pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance. What he's doing is wrong. Michael Jordan never says anything about anything, and Michael Jordan even came out. It was like, yeah, he should be, doing it. That's the correct thing to do. And I think he did throw in, he felt the league was incorrect because he had been doing this for a while. Like, I think this went on for like 60 games and nobody said anything. And then finally, it became a big to-do. I think because a white person said something. But he said he felt that it was incorrect. The league allowed this to go on for so long. But, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf should, get it together, behave for white people. I mean, man, oh man. Justice, did you have any final questions? No. Did we lose you? Justice, are you still there? I might have muted her mic by accident. If you're still on, oh man, I don't know if I could do anything about it at this point. Dang. You can type your questions to me. If you have questions, if you type them to me, I will ask. Wow, incredible information. I thought of something when I was doing my research for the show. You wrote about Cecil Rhodes, and you talked about him on the broadcast. You said that he sodomized children in Africa. Is that correct? Am I remembering?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I was thinking, Mr. Fuller, I spoke with him, and he said he generally does not pick a person and say this person is the embodiment of white supremacy, right? To give people an illustration, he said he generally doesn't do that. He said, but if I was to do it, I would give you this person. I'm not going to tell you who it was because I'm trying to make a show about this, but he named a person and he explained. I'll give you the sound clip of this and everything.
Okay, cool.
While you were talking, I was thinking Cecil Rhodes would be an outstanding illustration of white supremacy. Cecil Rhodes is glorified for being a racist. Not only for being a Hall of Fame white supremacist. He went into Africa and set those. I'm all about telling the truth because this is how white people think. He went into Africa and he set those savage niggers straight.
Yes.
Set the example for how you crush niggers. Yay, Cecil Rhodes. That is the embodiment of being a white person in the system of white supremacy. Not only is he praised, I just asked a non-white person who studies racism, is at a major institution. I said, do you know who Cecil Rhodes is? And he said, no. And I said, okay, do you know about the Rhodes Scholarship? And he said, oh, of course. People have no idea who he is, but they know the Rhodes Scholarship, wow, incredibly intelligent, informed, the pinnacle of academic achievement. That's what's associated with the Rhodes Scholarship and racism, white supremacy. It is glorified. Just if you can think about the association between that, Rhodes Scholarship for a Hall of Fame racist. And they named the country after him. It was Rhodesia.
Yep.
They named the chunk of land.
Yep.
You will be worshipped for years around the world. Hall of Fame racist. And he's a pedophile. I want you to, and I even told him, I said, I think it would disturb people more if I said he was a pedophile as opposed to a racist. So I said, I need to make sure I attach that. If you want the embodiment of being a white person, being a white male, you are a pedophile and a racist. That's racism, white supremacy. That's what you should think of about white people, because that's what they do.
Yep.
They glorify this man who is a pedophile and a racist. That's white people. That's white people. Did you, because we're over, did you want to share anything you would like to tell them, promote about the site, or if you have any just final words you would like to leave folks with, please go right ahead.
Okay. I definitely look forward to, continuing to build a relationship with you, brother, because, that's what it's all about, getting together with other people and presenting ourselves more effectively, Voltron style. You know what I mean? But I definitely, some of the things that I would say is, support this brother right here, what he's doing, you know what I mean? And, for some people they think, that you got to be brave to do something like this. No, you just got to be human. You know what I mean? It's not about trying to be a martyr. This is information that if we all can start learning about ourselves, we'll be that much more effective in the pursuit of our liberation. And, if you get an opportunity, log on to my site. We also have an e-blast list where I send out lists to keep you, send out blasts to keep you updated on, project releases. I have a big project release coming out for 9/11 on the 10th. I actually did a lecture back in 2003 that's available for also digital download, and you can watch clips of it on the site right now. And I'm releasing this 6-part series I wrote called Terrorist Factory back in 2001. I'm releasing it online, and this is going to be like really getting into the metaphysical repercussions behind the World Trade Center bombings, and just really get involved as far as what's really behind it all. And as we're coming upon our 10th anniversary, 1 year removed from our 10th anniversary of 9/11, it's still things that the government refuses to address, and people are still thinking that it's those people over there in Afghanistan when it's right here. You know what I mean? So we got a lot of things coming up. I'm working on my second book, which is called The Unknown Known, which is a strictly a metaphysics book. And hopefully, in our next conversation, we can get more into also the metaphysical aspect of things, because that's just as vital a topic that I feel we should be about talking and exposing information on, because it's not just about dealing with this cracker. I mean, we're children of the sun. And there's a connection that we have with the universe, and I think if we can get attached to that, then we can really get attached to our ancestors and really focus on what our purpose of being here is about. So yeah, but I want to give humble thanks for allowing me to run my mouth for a couple hours. I always am appreciative to that opportunity, and I hope that we can continue to build this relationship, and anything that I can do or DGT can do to assist in your endeavors, man, I'm here with you.
Wow. The pleasure was ours, sir. And we would love to have you back anytime. Open invitation. Easily one of my favorite broadcasts already. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Any topics or what have you that you would like to address? If we can do anything to promote the work that's coming out. You said you got something major coming out for 9/11, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay. It'll be out on the 10th. I'll make sure that, I'll reach out to you, and I'll get this, because I have an e-blast that's going on. Actually, I have another release coming out on Monday. It's called Versus, and it's his story versus our story. And it's a series of things that I've been realizing that I need to revisit. For instance, the sister mentioned earlier the piece I did called Heru versus Jesus, and it talked about the correlations between the two. And there's some other topics that I just basically are correlating, like, for instance, Hermes, when we talk about the Hermetic principles and things of that nature. Well, Hermes is the Greek version of Jehudi. So I got a piece that's called Jehudi versus Hermes. I got a piece that's called Mentor versus Jegna, which is already online, where we talk about what a mentor is. Well, who was Mentor? Mentor was a person. You know what I mean? He was a Greek, another pedophile that worked with Odysseus. He worked with Odysseus, and he had a relationship with his son, and he put him under his wing and sodomized him, injecting male principles into his anus, because this is what Greeks did. This was the excuse for raping young boys, was they were injecting male principles. This is what they said. This is Greek history. So you have Mentor, who did these things, and now you have people today that say, oh yeah, I'm mentoring this child, or I have a mentor. What you're doing is you're paying homage to, and you're resurrecting the spirit of these people. So we need to be about resurrecting the right people. So Jegna is a word that was put out by Wade Nobles, and it's basically a more correct word for using someone that stands up and is righteous and effectively sets an example for someone to follow. So I got a piece called Mentor versus Jegna. I got a couple other pieces, and this is what this Versus series is going to be about, and it's coming out on Monday. So like I pretty much drop a lot of pieces throughout the year, and our e-blast is what I use as a vehicle to promote it, as well as Twitter and Facebook and things of that nature. So, I could definitely, keep you abreast of what's coming up on the horizon. In addition to the fact that in 2011 I got a movie that I'm working on called The Boule, Who is the Boule. So, there's a bunch of things that I'm trying to put out and get this information out so that we can, equip ourselves to deal with all this madness that's out here. and reclaim our story. You know what I mean?
For sure. Justice, she efficient. I love it. She solves problems. She emailed her question in. Her question is, what books would you recommend for children that are starting to study racism, white supremacy? And she says, if you can't think of any at this moment, could you please email her at justice.asap@yahoo.com.
Okay. Off the dome, child-friendly. I'll give you an author that I think he's a Jegna. Notice I didn't say mentor, but he's a Jegna of mine, Anthony Browder. He's written several books. One of them, from the Browder Files. That was his very first book. I think that's a very good book to read that you could introduce to children. Actually, Jawanza Kunjufu writes a lot of books dealing with children, the psychological effects of children. So maybe that might be too bad. That might be over your head because he's more into the psychology of it. But what I will do is I will compile a list of books. And that's the thing. I'm glad that she brought that up because there is a desire, there is a need for this information. Even with my video articles, and I'm going back into it and trying to make them kid-friendly. Because, this information is key, and the earlier that we can get our kids exposed to it, the better. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't get exposed to knowledge of self till I was 20. Imagine if I knew it when I was 5, where I'd be now. You know what I mean? So I definitely appreciate her bringing that up, and I will make it, my ambition to make something, or at least try to contribute more material for kids. I actually have on my plate, I'm trying within the next year create a kids version of DGT.com. So, you know what I mean? We already connected. We already there. So I'm working on it. You know what I mean? DGT for kids.
I'm working on that myself. That's one of my life goals for the next year. My physical year is starts in September to get a child's book published by this time next year. So hopefully Gus T Renegade's name will be in that list of books you can give for kids.
And let's work together. Let's collaborate. Anything we can do together, man. You know what I mean? Because that's the key. Is we can
for sure
effective together.
I agree, and look forward to it. Oh, she says she has one more question.
Okay.
She's typing away. Let's see. Technology. See, get kids to read. You can even, if they don't like reading, you can use the internet. Like I suspect it would have been easy to trick me into reading more if I'd had access to the internet when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because reading. A lot of people I think will go online to your site and would read the GhettoTimes.com. They would go there and read, but they wouldn't necessarily go to a library or whatever. So that's definitely a way you can hook some kids into reading. Maybe need to make a whole blog for kids. Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
And you know what? If she writes, I would love to showcase some of her work on DGT. Uh-oh. You've got an offer on the table. I hope you heard that, Justice. You have an offer on the table. If you want to write anything, you can be published at 11. Like, can you? I didn't write anything publicly about racism until way down the road. You could have something published online about racism at 11. You have everybody beat. Martin Luther King. You got them all beat. Like, wow. Yep. And you know what I want to mention, too, that Anthony Browder has a daughter, Atlantis, and she published her first book. She was probably 6 or 7. Wow. She's published 2 or 3 books. So if you Google Anthony Browder, or even Atlantis Browder, she's written several books that are kid friendly. So that could be definitely a start too.
I was trying to have him on the program. Is there any way you could help me with that?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay.
Definitely.
Her question is, what media would you recommend for children to learn and understand racism, white supremacy?
What media?
Media, yes, sir.
Ghetto Times.
Okay, that's awesome.
Other than that, like I said, look up Atlantis Browder. Okay. I don't think she has a site, but Anthony Browder, he's in the D.C. area. He does a lot of historical lectures and presentations and things of that nature. That's another good source to get information. He's definitely good brother. He's sharp brother. And you know what? Let me do some research on that, because you know what? I'm actually embarrassed to realize that we're missing the most vital piece, the youth. Mm-hmm. I mean, I got stuff that's good for teenagers and maybe even 8 or 9 year olds, but the youth is who we really need to tap into. So I got to shift my focus and get involved, because she's proven that there's a need for that. So I will make it my ambition to try to deliver.
Wow, I appreciate that. I'm sure she does as well. Wow, okay. She said thank you. Her email address is justice.asap@yahoo.com. Make sure I get that. And she said that's all her questions, and say, I think I got that correct. Okay, outstanding. I don't do this very often, but again, I think this has been a very constructive program, phenomenal recommendation. Thank you, 818. Her blog, ebonynewschannel.blogspot.com, ebonynewschannel.blogspot.com. I'm just telling the upcoming broadcast, and I will give you the final words. You can close us out today, if that's all right with you, sir.
Cool.
Okay. We will be back tomorrow. Professor Griff, he'll be making his return visit to the context of white supremacy. Showtime is 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. Professor Griff returns to the cows. Friday, London. Keep in mind, glad we say that on the broadcast all the time, global system of racism, white supremacy. London is big time supporting the cows. I hope that's black people in London listening. I suspect some racist white supremacists might be listening as well, but I hope black people there are tuning in. Either way, a lot of people in London are listening. More people from the city of London listen to this program than in the entire state of Georgia. And Georgia sends a lot of listens, but I mean, London is really, global. Keep that in mind. When you talk about racism, white supremacy, nobody might care about you here. It's a lot of non-white people on the planet. Even if you can't get anybody here, there might be non-white people who want to hear what you have to say in any part of the world where white people are mistreating them. So keep that in mind. Global system. London, from London, Paul Ifeanyi Grant. He'll be here on Friday. The showtime is 6 p.m. Eastern. It's 6 p.m. London time. There we go. It's 6 p.m. London time. It'll be 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. That's Friday. Paul Ifeanyi Grant. He is a black male. He's written extensively about racism, white supremacy. One of his books, Why Willie Lynch Must Die, from the United Kingdom. He'll be here on Friday. And Sunday, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She'll be here, her 6th visit. It will be 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and 11 p.m. London time for folks out there. Context of white supremacy. Justice's email, justice.asap@yahoo.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning, and I leave the rest to you, Mr. Ishangi.
Oh, brother, I just wanted to give my humble thanks, man, for the opportunity. And I hope that, again, that we can just continue to work together, you know what I mean? And I enjoy this opportunity. And I look forward to just, building and solidifying a stronger foundation. So, let's support each other. Let's get in the business of supporting each other. Share the information, because it ain't ours anyway. It's not yours personally, it's ours. So don't be stingy with it.
Thank you, sir. Justice says good night, and I do as well. Thank you, and we will be in touch soon.
Okay, brother. Peace. Blessings.
Context of White Supremacy signing out.